welcome back. We're here at the California coast, and okay, Caleb says we're not at the coast.
One, two, three, four, one.
You told me that your love for me was not strong as it used to be, baby. You told me the money I received was nothing but just chicken feed, baby.
I don't know, I really like the pilot log, so he's a heavy boy. Nailed it.
Don't talk like that. Don't talk like that. You told me that I was cool, but my money wouldn't buy dog food, baby. Oh,
Wow.
you said I was just keeping you
a lot of
from
these.
having yourself some fun, baby. Yeah. But you are the world to me, and to my
It's like someone's having a cookout.
talk like that. Baby, don't talk like that.
Where are we at? Welcome back to another episode of Jeans in the Rain. I am, of course, your host, Forrest Mankins. And to be honest, I was not expecting this when I decided we'd come to the California coast. So, welcome. I think we're gonna go south. Whew. Can we show a photo of what you look like right now? That's better. All right, no more jokes. It's time to get serious. This video is going to be about car camping, and so we're gonna kind of look at how I do it, some tips and maybe best practices that I've learned over the years. But we're also gonna talk about photography and how kind of traveling this way has really influenced the way I work. I'm gonna get this stick out of the way. Okay, so I've been car camping, I don't know, like 8 or 9 years, if not longer, and there are kind of some core basics that I try to have with me all the time. And so number one is like the sleeping pad. This is an X-Pad Mega Mat 10, and it's kind of huge and awesome. You don't need something that big, but you do need something, even if it's like a couple of Z pads or a yoga mat or something. Like, you need that not only for comfort, but also to like stay warm and to retain your body heat. Even if you have a 0-degree bag like this thing is, you're still gonna get cold at night if you don't have a sleeping pad. So that's number one. Number two, the sleeping bag. I've had this thing since I was 9 and I'm 31. Come on! It's covered in like duct tape, patches, and all kinds of stuff. Like, it doesn't have to be fancy. You just need, you know, a good one, and then you can have it forever. Over here, I've got the little Goal Zero. It's a Yeti 150. It's a few years old. I don't really try to charge like a MacBook or anything with it. I'll like do, you know, my phone or a flashlight, just kind of like a good backup. Always have rubber boots. Always have an axe. Always. Better yet, a shovel, which I don't have with me. This is kind of like the camping box, which is its own little world, and we can get into that in a minute. Pillow up there, of course. This duffel bag is just clothing. There's another bag right next to the Clorox over there that is just full of like jackets and outerwear. And so this kind of just helps keep everything in its own compartment. One of the biggest things that you run into with car camping is space. It's super easy to, you know, think that you need to bring everything so that like you're being prepared, right? And Yvon Chouinard has said that the more you know, the less you need. And kind of as time goes on, you'll realize that you basically need just a few things and you can go basically anywhere, do anything, and just make it work. So after a couple of days car camping, no matter how hard I try, you know, we're pulling over on the side of the road, taking photos, moving stuff around, it starts raining, all of that, the back of this car is gonna look scrambled, like no matter how hard you try. So just accept that, and when you're packing and bringing things with you, you're basically choosing how much of a headache you wanna have. So, you know, keep your space to a maximum, stuff to a minimum, and just know that every few days you're gonna have to like unscramble it. And the less work you have to do, the more fun you're gonna have on the road. Doubt it. Oh, we are, okay. Camping box, here's the deal. I got this thing at a department store like 5 years ago, and it fits basically everything, all of the little minutia and gear. Can you come over and check this out? This is like my stuff. This is the random camping stuff. And so I took out the important things. So I have, you know, a coffee mug, a bowl, some silverware, bear spray, always have like the torch and everything. We'll talk about this guy later. It's actually pretty cool, and they're sponsoring this video. But, you know, coffee, just headlamp, just like a few things. It doesn't need to be a whole lot, and you can kind of change what goes in here depending on what you know you're going to be doing. If you know you're going out and you want to cook more, great, you can put more things in, but you don't need to have everything all the time. So this is just kind of like a general traveling alone baseline. A little bit of food, a couple of utensils, some bear spray, torch, flashlight. Pretty simple. So this video is sponsored by Burns-O-Matic. Burns-O-Matic makes amazing products that I use in my everyday life, and now it's super exciting because they're making a line of products that are great for car camping and just camping or being outside in general. Some of my favorite products for car camping are the Burns-O-Matic Outdoor Utility Torch. So I use the outdoor utility torch all the time for lighting a camping stove or a portable grill, lighting a campfire if you've ever tried to do that with wet wood or just like in pouring down rain. You know how great this thing is. The fuel gauge, you just slip it on your propane gas canister and it tells you exactly how much is left in. So, you know, whether you're going out for 2 or 3 nights or a week or whatever, you're not left guessing how much fuel you have or bringing way too much. Also, this Burns-O-Matic pocket torch is amazing. It's super small and uses the Burns-O-Matic butane, and it also has a built-in key ring. Okay, I was gonna do some jokes, but apparently that's not allowed or encouraged. We've talked about like car camping 101, right? Some of the ways that I do it. Let's talk a little bit about how the photography relates to car camping, or like vice versa. And first and most quickly, let's just touch on the gear that I'm using. So obviously there's a lot of gear here, and to be fair, we did bring one extra zoom lens for video, but the thing is, like, on this entire trip, probably 95% of the work is happening on this and this guy. So a digital camera with a 24-70, that's kind of the most useful thing to me. A lot of people like a 24-105. Even if I just had like a 50mm lens, like this guy, or a 51.8, whatever, that would be more than enough. And honestly, most of this gear has just kind of sat unused in the bag. A couple of things here are just a backup, but generally I just bring too many cameras and still only use 1 or 2. Also, the iPhone is in here on purpose. I shoot with the iPhone a lot, and I view it as a serious photographic tool. I shoot photos in the native app. I shoot photos also in DNG format in the Halide app and edit them in Lightroom just like I do anything else on a digital camera. So yeah. Next up, we have the film. If, you know, like we're car camping, right, there's enough room to haul around a little bit of weight. We're not backpacking. I usually try to have a 35mm film camera and a medium format film camera. So I've got this guy with a 50mm lens for 35 format, and I'm shooting Portra 160 and Portra 400. I rate Portra 400 at 200 speed and just shoot it and develop it like normal. And 160 I'm kind of new to, but I'm rating that at 100 on the back of the camera, shooting it as normal, developing it as normal. And for medium format, I have this Fuji GA645, which is like the VCR camera. Which is just like a train wreck to shoot, but the lens is really cool. And on medium format, I generally stick to Portra 800. Sometimes 400 and the lower speed films just feel too clean for me, so I really like 800, and I'm generally rating that at between 320 to 500 depending on what I'm shooting. Can I go back to jokes now? Okay, so why are we talking about car camping? Like, sure, you drive to places and take photos, right? But why does this, method and approach to travel have any influence on our photos, or does it? And to me, it's been a thing that has been, really refreshing, and it has, given me a lot of different insight about myself and also how I see the world. And to kind of like frame that, I think of photo ideas constantly and I write them down, and that's great. Some of my best photos have happened that way, but also it's really easy without any outside influence to just like stay within your own box or like with your own bubble. So you might think of a lot of cool ideas, but it's like such a narrow scope. And when you go out into the world and interact with things and see things, it kind of changes you and it influences you, and it puts more things into your radar of what is cool or valuable or, worthy of making an image with. And so it's really easy for me to fall into the trap of that kind of narrow vision. This is what I want. And trips like this are the things that kind of widen that and broaden that. And, they also turn into some of my favorite photos that I've ever made. There's something to be said for, planning and executing a shoot. That's really valuable and kind of a crucial skill to have. But there's also those freak photos that only happen if you're out in the world and you're out there when the good light happens or an animal runs across the road or whatever it is. So having this sort of, mobility and freedom is really something that I think is valuable for any photographer. So all of that in mind, we've been driving around for 4 or 5 days now, and we've got a couple days left, I guess. So, as we kind of drive around and see things that, seem like they might be worthy of a photo or cool things like that, I'll try to remember some tips or like what I'm thinking, because there's a lot of, like basic 101 photography tips going through my mind when I'm taking these photos that I'm not necessarily thinking of. A lot of it is like choosing a focal length to, compress something, or like using a filter, approaching a subject from a different angle and seeing the light. Just, there's a lot of different stuff. And I think what it boils down to is learning to identify the thing that made you want to stop, like that made you want to pull over and take a photo. And that's really important to kind of hone in on. And I think that's just a thing that happens with time. But anyway, as we're driving around and taking photos and stuff, we'll try to get some footage of that and give you some tips that might give you a little more value. I have no clue where my polarizing filter is for this thing. Rolling. Okay, so a big tip for me is like, this is the most boring, common sense kind of like #1 on the photo tip list, but every time I shoot water, people still ask me, how do you get it to look like that? It is a polarizing filter, specifically a circular polarizing filter, and I'll show you why. Okay, so for whatever lens you're using, you'll see that there's like a, a thread size, right? You get a corresponding one. The one downside to a polarizer to me is that you lose some light. It's cutting out light, so you have to either use a slower shutter speed, a higher ISO, bigger aperture, whatever. But it's worth it. So I'm gonna take a frame without the polarizer and then one with, and you can see the difference. Okay, so here's the shot without the polarizing filter. Water still looks amazing, but here is that same shot with the polarizing filter on. So as you can see, it's a huge difference. And once more, remember, like, so a polarizer works best not shooting towards the sun or away from it, but to the side of it. Just one more. This is not even like a particularly interesting photo. The water is just so beautiful that it's hard not to take a photo for me. Cool beans. We came around this bend in the road. It's been raining, and these trees up here just had like fog and cool sunlight on them. I got out, got a couple of pictures before we even got the video camera out, and now the light's totally gone. Like, to me, I wouldn't stop to take a picture of that. So it's just like driving around, you know, and having this thing kind of ready, whatever it is. Even if you know, maybe you have like a 16 to 35 and a 24 to 70, like, just have the longer lens on and keep it zoomed in. So it's just about being ready and creating less resistance to get out and take a photo. Nope, doesn't work. You want to eat lunch?
Sure.
That sounds pretty good. I have to go to town and get lunch because Caleb won't share with me. Onward? Oh, I left my car running. Did I? I did. I've never had a car that's quiet before. They all sound like good, 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 good.
Do you want help putting that on?
I got it. I know stuff. Should I go through the pants to the shoe? Like all the way down?
Yeah, put it in your boot.
There's enough. This is actually your personal property. I should not do that.
What? Is it somewhere in your pants?
It's gone. Huh? Yeah, I hope some of this advice has been helpful. As you know, with anyone you're taking advice from, you know, look at their work. Do they make stuff that you like? Do they make good work? You know, take the things that work for you, leave everything else behind. I think if anyone tells you that there's only one way to do anything, like, you probably shouldn't listen to that person. So yeah, hopefully some of this is helpful, maybe for your car camping, hopefully for your photography, just everything moving forward. And one other thing is, you know, we shot a lot of images on this trip. I don't know how many rolls of film or like how many raw files we've got, but something to remember is that like all of these photos that we're showing are not, you know, like portfolio worthy or amazing, and that's okay. Like, number one, I just like making photos and creating, and, like, you know, the practice of trying to see things. And so when you're really trying to make better work, it comes down to, you know, intention, but it's also a numbers game. The more you go out, the more you shoot, the more you experiment and are taking all of these other photos, that's going to inform how you work and see moving forward. So to me, all of these, you know, random roadside stops and everything else, some might be cool, some might not be. You might hate all of them. To me, they all add up together, like to create my body of work and to, inform how I shoot and how I will continue to shoot. So it's not wasted. It's fun anyway, but you get a lot better photos by going out and trying versus just sitting at home and waiting for the perfect thing to come by. So yeah, hope this was helpful. If you enjoyed it, got any value of it, maybe consider subscribing or not. I think we're going to drive home now. Caleb has a clause in his contract where he can only be photographed giving a peace sign. That was your only demand, right? Wait let me focus this bad boy. Okay. I don't know why I need to be doing this, but can you put it like a sound in there?
Yeah.
Very good. That's a wrap.
Me back away from the coast. Where sisters can fight over beauty.
Is that good?
Brothers can always compete, but it still feels like home.
That'll do.
That'll be better.
Okay. Olive Garden for everyone.
It still feels like home. It still feels like home. It still feels like